Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. DJ, we are back after a couple-week hiatus, and it's been a whirlwind, right? It's the first time maybe in 6 years of running the show we've taken 2 straight weeks off, and that is because of the intense cricket season we had that culminated obviously in Team India lifting the World Cup. How are you feeling, man? I know I knew we announced we were taking 1 week off. We ended up taking a second week off because I think everybody's brains just needed it. I'm sure even our listeners needed a little bit of a break from us after the whirlwind that was a World Cup. But how are you feeling? We're still World Cup champions. It wasn't a dream. It happened.
Yeah, I'm still buzzing from that victory parade at the Wankhede. Still seeing those pictures of Marine Drive getting filled up and getting goosebumps. Still quite enjoying someone throwing a t-shirt at Hardik Pandya at the Wankhede and him catching it in the midst of singing Chak De India. So yeah, I mean, but there's a lot that's happened in these last 2 weeks. We in the classic way. We said we'll be off for 1 week, but then we phoned in kind of sick for the next week as well. But we're back. So we won't take 3 weeks off because nobody does that. But we've taken our 2 weeks off and we're back. There's a lot of cricket. There's a lot to talk about. It's like all change, as they say in the London Underground. It's all change, please. So
There you
let's
go.
go.
I mean, you made a joke about nobody taking 3 weeks off, and that is true in the US where I live and in India and stuff. But in Europe, you guys take 3 weeks off all the time, don't you?
Well, I live in London, so it's
You're not
questionable
technically
whether
Europe
we
anymore.
form part of Europe. So I'm not going to get into
All
that
right.
political
All
debate.
right. It took
But
us
you're
90
living in the
seconds
political hotbed of the world at the moment.
90 seconds and we're talking about Brexit or we're talking about the US elections. Anyway, this is a cricket podcast. To your point, right? The World Cup ended. We said, all right, cool. Most sports is a World Cup every 4 years. First off, we have one basically every year between the T20, I guess 3 out of every 4 years, right? You have the T20s every other year and then the ODI. Then you have the World Test Championship.
And
But
the
the World Cup
ICC
ended
Champions Trophy as well. So you pretty much
and
have all 4 years
it's
covered.
just nonstop. The World Cup ended. First, the trophy celebration, which was a big deal and like Marine Drive packed in the Wankhede, it couldn't happen for a few days because the Indian cricket team couldn't leave Barbados because of weather. Like that was a whole thing, by the way, right? You remember, not only could they not leave, and then eventually they got a chartered flight out on Air India, but it came to be revealed that it wasn't like an extra plane. They canceled a New York to Delhi flight that people were booked on, sent that plane to Barbados. I mean, that's the power of the BCCI. So there was poor. I mean, I've flown that New York Delhi flight. I can't imagine being at the gate and being told, "Hey, the plane's been cancelled. You're being pushed to tomorrow or some other flight because the plane is going to pick up Virat and Rohit and fly them home." But they
But
made it
with the
home.
Indian fines, they would have happily given the plane to the
I,
Indian cricket team in exchange for an autograph or something. Like I don't
I
know.
think that is true on paper, but if you've ever been sitting at an airport and the screen pops up on your gate saying "Flight cancelled," it's not a moment I wish on.
That's been happening as well with CrowdStrike. I mean, so much has happened since we
The
last
world has changed
got
since you
on
and I
this
last.
podcast, man.
Anyway, let's talk about
Insane.
we. What have we got? We've done Brexit. We've done elections. We've talked CrowdStrike now, but we're back to talk cricket. So phenomenal celebrations. I mean, like you said, just a great World Cup win. But like with the story that is Indian cricket, it didn't take a break, right? India's, let's call it B team or whatever, went to Zimbabwe, 4-1 victory over there.
Lost the first match as well,
Lost the first match in a bad
chasing
way, and
120 or
it was
something.
probably for the best in hindsight that we weren't recording because it was an absolutely horrendous first game. Right? You're right. I get to look back and say 4-1. But chasing 116, India gets 102 all out. I mean, Abhishek Sharma, who came into open, who we spent most of the World Cup saying he's got to be our next opener, makes a duck on the fourth ball of the innings. Ruturaj batting at 3, which is a whole different discussion, gets single digits. Riyan Parag at 4, Rinku 5, Dhruv Jurel 6. Everybody fails. Just everybody failed. Did you believe at that point that, okay, this team, we've sent a B team, whatever, etc.? Or did you believe that, listen, Samson will get them to victory? And did you believe in 4-1 happening?
Frankly, man, I didn't care, to be honest. Like, this was a B
Yeah,
team.
that's
We
right.
lost to, like, Sikandar Raza, I think, did pretty well in the first game. And then the second game, I think Abhishek Sharma scored probably fastest. He went to his 100 with three sixes in a row. I don't think it was being telecast over here. So I literally had no access to this. series. I was just following it on Cricinfo with some interest. There was some chatter on Cricinfo. Sorry, I'm going to like really summarize this because
It's
I have
great.
not
Go for it.
followed this series.
Yeah.
There was, I think Rona Kapoor was probably broadcasting from Harare and stuff, and there was chatter about whether Ruturaj is being used correctly, whether somebody is batting in the right. No one cares. I think Shubman Gill was the top scorer of that series. I mean, like,
Yeah.
who cares? Like, this is a non-event. After you won the T20 World Cup, you lose your first game as a T20 side. It's funny, right? But this is not a real series. I'm sorry, this is not what people tune in to watch. And even us as hardcore cricket fans, we watched the 19 November 2023 World Cup final. We went then from there to playing Australia and ODIs. We went from there to the South Africa tour. We went there from 5 tests against England. From there, we went to the IPL for 2.5, 3 months. From there, we went to the T20. We watched all of that. We just needed a break. So sorry, man, that was my break. Okay, so I was not invested in that series at all. And Shubman Zim did pretty well, I think.
Shubman Zim. That's what you came up with after all that. Listen, I think it's fair. Honestly, I think it's fair, right? Like it's the reality of what we've all been living through. Uh, Part of me, I guess the question is, should we be playing series like this? Is it good for the Riyan Parags and the guys who aren't in the starting 11s to get game time? And is it good for Zimbabwe and other teams to be able to play India? Because even though you and I didn't watch it, there were eyeballs, there were people in the stadium. Or is it not worth it?
It's okay, but I would rather it be part of like a South Africa triangular series or something like that.
Yeah,
A
that's fair.
bilateral series in Zimbabwe makes no sense to me. Like,
Yeah,
who's watching that?
yeah,
The gap between the teams is so large. But like they used to be the triangular series when India toured South Africa, and that makes sense to me. Where it's not far, so you can have a short flight, and you can go and play in Zimbabwe. You can have the three teams play against each other. It's quite nice. But this made no sense to me. And similarly, when Ireland or you can play a series again, try series with Ireland and England, and when India tour, yeah, that's good. I like that exposure. But like this is no got no context. It's
yeah.
pointless. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. So anyway, wrapped up as 4-1. Shubman Gill was captain, also highest scorer, like you said, right? And from a run standpoint, Shubman had a good run. Yashasvi had a good outing. Abhishek made one century and had a pretty poor series otherwise. Ruturaj. So just talk to me about how you think about the future of the top order. We've talked for years about how we seem to be so top two, top three heavy. And that's feeling like it's starting to be true for the next generation as well. How do you feel about that? And Shubman actually made a statement, I think, saying he thinks competition for the opening spot is good. But you played Ruturaj at three, which is an unnatural position for him. So how do you? We'll talk more about the Sri Lanka series here in a second and the squads, etc. But how do you feel about? Do you think, even if it was kind of an irrelevant series in the grand scheme, do you think it was is good? Did we learn anything as an India side? Did it help us set up for the guys who will be playing this format for us in the future?
So I think Yashasvi got a 93 not out as well. Sorry, I
Yep.
know I didn't. I claim I didn't follow it, but I
Yeah,
was
you
watching
know
it
the
on
scores and everything. Yeah.
Cricinfo, right? Like so,
Yeah.
Yashasvi got runs as well. For me, he's the clear front runner for that opening spot. I think Rohit retiring. I think that's going to be a fairly straightforward and easy swap with Yashasvi coming in, right? And then Kohli retiring, and then whether we go with two left-handers or whether Gill takes that top spot is kind of remaining to be seen. But Gill is now, and we'll come to this later in the show. He's being touted as the all-format captain, so they like the idea of having one person. Of course, they've split the captaincy, which we'll all get into that. But I suspect Gill and Yashasvi are going to be that future pair with the likes of Rutu and Abhishek Sharma kind of breathing down their necks. And that's the other thing that the selectors said. All these guys know they need to perform. There's no one that's
Yeah.
guaranteed a spot. But I think the front runners are definitely Shubman Gill and Yashasvi for those two spots.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Lots has changed. Like we said, T20 series. By the time we record next week's episode, there will be Sri Lanka games already done. It's just nonstop with India cricket. But let's talk a little bit then about the selections for the Sri Lanka ODI and T20 series that have come out, right? So lots has happened. DJ, maybe do you want to try to summarize a little? So obviously the big headline was Shubman as vice captain. Let's start briefly with the T20 squad, and then we'll go to ODI. So on T20, we have a new skipper. I guess he's captain before, but we have a new skipper for a series. and that is Surya Kumar Yadav. Not Hardik Pandya, not Shubman also, because he's now become vice in both formats. So let's start with that. Sky is probably the first name on a T20 team sheet at this point. Uh, maybe excluding Bumrah, but Bumrah doesn't play these kinds of series. Do you think that's the right call?
So Sky, I'd say, had a middling World Cup, right? He
I've
had
watched
scored
that catch
150.
about
That
eight
catch, yeah,
thousand.
yeah, 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 yeah. That catch is just unbelievable. And like I
Yeah,
think everyone I speak to still just goes on about that catch in the last
yeah,
over. But
as
he
they
scored
should.
150, I think. Maybe. I don't know what, maybe 250s. It was a middling World Cup. He's the number one T20 batter in the world. If you remember, when we talked about the squad for the World Cup when it came out, I had said if it were up to me, it wouldn't be Hardik that would be captain. It would be Surya Kumar Yadav that would be captain. I just surround him with all these crazy Abhishek Sharmas, Yashasvi Jaiswals, and just give him all these youngsters. Well, because you can see that Sky is he's got that maturity about him. He's 33 years old. He's fit enough. He's good in the field. He's got no issues with his T20 batting. Can't say the same for his ODI game. And he doesn't have fitness issues. Now, Hardik Pandya, who was the incumbent successor, so to speak, has had issues with his fitness. He had a stellar World Cup, don't get me wrong. But I think I don't know whether the rumors are true or not, but I think he's got some personal stuff going on as well.
I think it's
So
been posted on socials now. He's posted about his
yeah, so
separation and
I
stuff.
think
So
he's
it's real. Yeah.
separated from his wife now as well. So there's been stuff that's been going on. Of course, amusingly at the Wankhede that booed him 3 months ago at the IPL game, they were cheering, chanting his name, Hardik, Hardik, right? And
Yeah.
I mean
How it changes,
that was
right?
pretty interesting. But it's his fitness that's really gone against him. It's not his form because everyone knows that he's got a unique skill set. He's India's number one all rounder, and if he was fit enough and could play all three formats somehow, he would be a magnificent addition to that team. There's been a lot of drama around his captaincy, so I have to say that this is probably quite disappointing for him as a player personally to be overlooked in this way. But he is younger than Surya, so I mean, there is a world in which he could take the T20 captaincy, but they're also grooming Shubman Gill as an all-format captain because they like that captaincy across all formats. He had Kohli all three formats. He had Rohit all three formats. Rohit is now retired from one format, which means you need to fill that. So, as a
Yeah.
temporary measure, as a kind of holding measure till 26, which is the next T20 World Cup, at least, I think Sky will be given a run. And
And
Bumrah
then
again is the other
potentially,
option, but Bumrah doesn't play all games. You want to save him for
yeah.
ODIs and test matches and stuff.
But
Sky
if you play out
doesn't
your
play the
thought,
other two formats.
yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah,
other
yeah.
point, right?
So if you play out your thought, then 25 is a Champions Trophy where Rohit should still be captaining the ODI side, and of course the World Test Championship and all that. 26 is a T20 World Cup where Sky will be captain for that, in your, assuming all this stays. And then, but 27, you have ODI, and then 28 T20. By that point, the hope is, if you're trying to build that, the hope is Gill is all format captain.
No, I think 27, Gautam Gambhir did a long press conference which gave quite a lot of sound
Okay,
bites and
yeah,
said Rohit and Kohli, he would like them. And he actually, I think what he said was any team would love them to be in the side. So he is hoping, fitness permitting. Now, I think it was less probably aimed at Kohli. It's probably more aimed at Rohit, who's, I think, a bit older than Kohli. He's had more kind of fitness issues in the
yeah,
past, missed a lot of stuff. But they have their work cut out, right? They know what they're going for in 27. So, yeah, I suspect Gill's time will come after 27 if all goes well for Rohit and Kohli. And Bumrah is obviously the other contender, but he's a bowler. You want to kind of wrap him in cotton wool. He may not play all games. And so the Sky decision is kind of logical because he plays basically one format. After the 2019 World Cup, he hasn't been in the squad. He's not going to play ODI again. And so test match was one experiment which didn't really work. So I think this
yeah.
is the right decision. I kind of
And
like
then
it.
let's talk really quickly about the rest of the T20 squad, right? So Abhishek Sharma opened, made one great century, middling rest of the series, or not a good rest of the series against Zimbabwe. Didn't make the cut against Sri Lanka. Ruturaj Gaikwad didn't make the cut against Sri Lanka. And so now you've brought in, I mean, you're playing Riyan Parag, You're playing obviously Samson. Rishabh Pant is back in the T20 squad. Obviously, he was a part of the World Cup, instrumental part of the World Cup, but didn't play Zimbabwe. Akshar Patel is being touted as since Jadeja obviously is retired from that format. We're just talking T20. Akshar Patel is and Sundar has come in. Sundar had a pretty good Zimbabwe series, and then to wrap it up, you have Arshdeep Khalil and Siraj kind of as the quicks with Shivam Dubey as an all-round option. Do you feel like that's the right squad, or is it still very much a we're grooming a few other people because Bumrah is always going to bowl in the big tournaments for us?
So interestingly, no Kel
Yeah,
Rahul.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
and Chahal is the other one, right? If missed out.
correct. So there's the spin off. I mean, you don't have Kuldeep either.
Yeah, but Kuldeep is being rested, so there's been a
Sure.
distinction between. So they've been quite deliberate on who's being rested and who's
Yeah.
not.
So your spin
Um,
options are Bishnoi, Sundar, and Akshar. Yeah.
yeah, so Bishnoi is the Kuldeep replacement. So I feel a little bit bad for Abhishek Sharma because
Yeah.
there was one again, and it's coming back to me now. There was one ODI where he bowled really well as well in Zimbabwe. So he does have that second skill. He did well for the Sunrisers, I think, in qualifier two with the ball on that turning track, where I think they beat. I can't remember who Sunrisers beat to get to the final now, but
Sure.
he bowled some good spin. So I think that it's the question of where he bats, which is Riyan Parag bats low down the order and can bowl some off spin, whereas Abhishek Sharma again is that glut at the top of the order.
Fighting.
So
Yeah.
maybe they are worried about that. And of course, Sky will bat three or four maybe, but in that team, it's got to be Yashasvi opening the batting, Gill opening the batting. Who bats
hmm
three? This guy.
Let's see. Rishabh probably three.
Yeah, Rishabh probably three, Sky probably four, right? And
Yeah.
then
Hardik,
Sanju's
Rishabh
kind of
slash
backup.
Sanju, I guess. Hardik five. Yeah. Hardik five, Shivam six. Kind of the World Cup model from there on,
Yeah.
right? If you will.
But they've got a bit of Rinku Singh in there as well, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'm okay with that. I think it was a bit harsh to leave him out after that kind of 100 that he got, but I mean, probably just needs to keep scoring those runs and knock the door down.
Yeah. All right, DJ, we're going to talk about the ODI squad. Let's take a very quick break. We'll be right back to talk about the ODI squad and then some of the interesting news from the world of women's cricket, too. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. If you are on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're on any of your podcast apps, leave us a 5-star review. We'd love to see them and to hear from you. We are one tip, one hand at gmail.com for any of your email inquiries. DJ, the ODI squad, the big news probably, right? Like you would never clear kind of new cap or new coach, new setup, etc. Three big guys recently retired from T20s. Two of them have been selected for the ODI squad against Sri Lanka. Three ODIs. Rohit Sharma is going to be leading. Virat Kohli is playing. And then, of course, you have names like KL Rahul and Shreyas Iyer, who walked into the ODI squad, didn't make the T20. And the notable omission was Ravindra Jadeja. Talk me through that. How are you feeling about that? Was that the right call? Rohit, were you surprised Rohit wants to play? And
I'm not.
Kohli, I guess.
I'm not. I
Okay.
mean, they've retired from T20 cricket, right? So the T20s come first. So they get a bit more of a break. I think they're all hanging
T20I
out in
cricket.
London.
They retired from T20
T20I cricket,
internationals.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but those come first, so they get a bit more of a break. Their bodies get a bit more of a break. I think they've been hanging out in London recently for on a break with their family
Have
and
you
stuff.
seen them? You
But
should find out where they are. Go stalk them.
okay, no, maybe not. Uh, but I mean, no surprise at all for me. Those guys are still. Rohit, remember, has not won a ODI World Cup, unlike Kohli. Now, Kohli,
Mhm.
if you remember Rahul Dravid's, uh, he said 3 out of 4 ticked. Go get the red ball one, which is the World Test Championship final. So I was trying to work out what the three white ball trophies are. It's a T20 World Cup, it's the ODI World Cup, and it's the Champions Trophy, each of which have been won by Kohli. And
Yeah.
then there comes the World Test Championship final. So that's the fourth. But Rohit is definitely that's his aim to play. So I'm not surprised that those guys are in. Against the Sri Lanka series is a funny one. It's
Yeah.
not the world's toughest side, and of course Siraj is going to just be licking his lips right now to see what he can do. But For me, there are few interesting selections there. One is Harshit Rana,
Hmm.
but is this KKR coach, KKR selection? I don't know, because if you remember, like the
Yeah.
captain of the team
Yeah. Dhoni
often
brought a
had an
lot of CSK
influence.
guys, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Kohli had a lot of RCB guys in his side, but
Yeah.
this is the coach now influencing to some extent. I think Nitish Rana's got a call up as well.
I don't think
I
Nitish
remember
Rana got
reading.
a call.
Did he not?
Maybe, I think maybe one Rana was enough for now, but
It was Harshit Rana, not Nishit Rana. I probably read a headline said Rana attributes his meteoric rise, and I was in Nitish Rana, but it's
I'm pretty
Harshit
sure
Rana,
that
right?
was
No,
Harshit.
no,
Yeah.
it's not. No, but so Harshit is obviously impressed him in the nets. He had a pretty fiery IPL. I think he gave someone a send off, didn't he?
Yeah.
Klassen.
Yeah.
He gave Klassen a send off, which was quite something. So yeah, Gautam Gambhir already putting his stamp on this team, man. I mean, there's been a lot already that's gone on with Gambhir. He's talked about Jay Shah. He's talked about his relationship with Kohli and how they're all mature and they're not kids anymore, and their relationship in the public, whatever they may think they are, privately they have a great relationship. And um, it it feels like this could go one of two ways, right?
Sure. Yeah.
This could go the Justin Langer way, where the players basically revolt and say, "We're not at school. We don't need a headmaster." Because I get the feeling there's a bit of that in Gambhir. I don't know it, but I'm just
Sure.
surmising
Yeah.
from what I see.
Yeah.
This is all like gossipy stuff, I suppose. But I mean, he's been very successful at what he's done with multiple franchises. He's won multiple ICC trophies. I think, the one that we talked about after 19 November 2023 is someone who needs to come in and get that kind of killer instinct into this Indian team. And he says a winning dressing room is a happy dressing room. So maybe that mentality change to get you those ICC trophies and make those matter of course, like they've become for the Australians, is someone like a Gambhir, where he's okay to take those hard decisions and win those big. He has enough stature to win those big battles against kind of star players. Because I can't see someone like him carrying a Kohli or a Rohit if they're not scoring runs for very long, right? Like the patch that Kohli went through. When was it? Just before that 82 against Pakistan, which I
Yeah.
watched again like 2 3 days ago, and I was just like, how
Amazing.
did they do it? Because I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. Because I was playing cricket on Sunday, and it was
So
we
you
were
had a
playing
bit of a
Chennai.
Hardik Pandya performance, didn't you?
Yeah, but it ended in a draw because we needed to get 30 of the last 2 overs. So we're playing like declaration cricket, basically one
Wait,
sided
you
game.
made 81 and took two for 34, and you still didn't win the match?
No, but because see, the format was a declaration format, so you could have a draw at the end of it. It's like the last day of a test match, where one team bats, they score some runs, so the other team scored 260 odd, and then they declare after like 50 overs, and they give the other side whatever remaining time to score those runs. It's like the last day of a test match,
That
basically.
sounds like such a strange format. Why do you play
It's
it?
an interesting format because it leaves the option of a draw open, right? So it's friendly cricket. Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway.
so we needed 30 of the last 2 overs. We had like
Yeah.
4 wickets maybe,
Yeah.
and I was batting okay, but just the fact that there's so much pressure on you to get
Yeah.
those runs at the end, everything like becomes like get really tense. Your shoulders become scrunched up, and you try and hit the ball too hard, and which is what makes you marvel at the way he hit those 2 sixes.
Yeah.
It's just like of Saharis Rao, 29 of 8.
Yeah. It's
I
a
mean,
totally different
unbelievable.
level.
It's
Yeah.
mentality of like next level mentality. But anyway,
Yeah.
what were we talking about?
It will be interesting to talk. I mean, Gambhir and the impact he's going to have. It's going to
Gambhir.
be super
Yeah.
interesting to see how it shakes out. I think, to your point, I'm with you, at least on paper right now. Right call. Needed somebody with that mindset, with that instinct. But you have a lot of big names in this dressing room. You have a lot of egos. It's going to be interesting. So I think I believe that if anybody can handle it, it is Gautam Gambhir. But would be lying if I said I'm not at all nervous about the potential risk.
But also, there
Right.
was a lovely note that Rohit left Rahul Dravid. Did you see his Instagram post about Dravid? And
Yeah.
he was the one that actually called Dravid up and asked him to extend after the
Yeah.
ODI World Cup. These are all things I don't think we've talked about because all of this has come out later, right? That was
Last
a
couple of
really
weeks.
nice
Yeah.
moment. I thought that.
Yeah, phenomenal. I mean, the post World Cup kind of scenes, the Rohit and Kohli hugging and tears, and like there's just been so many incredible moments.
Also,
Uh,
the celebrations, I felt like they'd already paid for them back in November, so they just like said, "Now we're going to use the
that's
same
it.
thing
At this point, they were ready for it, right?
for."
Um, DJ, we're gonna have to wrap up here in a few minutes, but very quickly on the ODI squad. Any thoughts on the omission of Ravindra Jadeja? Agarkar has come out and said, "Listen, he's not been dropped. We wanted to pick one of him or Akshar to be able to play all three games. If we picked both, we would split it, etc." What is your thought on this? Like, as he gets to the point, he's obviously a no drop kind of player in the red ball format, but with the white ball, are they now saying Akshar had a pretty great World Cup within 20 overs? We want to groom him to play more 50 overs as well.
No, I think they still said that Jadeja is the number one all rounder, right? But
Okay.
they've
Yeah.
got tests coming up against Bangladesh, against New Zealand, 5 tests against Australia. So it's a workload management thing. So I'm pretty sure, and they want to see whether Akshar can do the job he did in the T20 World Cup in the next 50 over World Cup, where they can provide, because it allows people to play more freely. If you've got someone like an Akshar who can float up and down the order, can
Yeah.
come in at eight, it's got batting ability. So I don't think this is a reflection on Jadeja at all. To be honest, he's a pretty unique player, just like Hardik. To be honest, so yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, DJ, exciting. We'll be able to talk about the Sri Lanka series when we're back next. I do want to make sure I quickly talk about, as much as the World Cup hysteria, etc., wrapped up for us on the men's side, we did have another India Pakistan game recently, and of course the India versus or the Asia Cup, the Women's Asia Cup is on. I mean, always fun to see India beat Pakistan, but this was an absolute drubbing, right? 7 wicket victory. Pakistan gets 108 all out. Phenomenal spell by Deepthi. Shout out to Renuka as well. Picked up 2 for 14 and then just chased it down in absolutely no time. And then India ended up winning their second game against the UAE as well. Harman made a nice 50. It's always great to see Harman do well. But then Richa Ghosh, I don't know if you haven't seen the highlights of this knock, you should. Uh, 12 boundaries on a six in 29 balls, 64 not out in 29 balls. Took India to over 200. You would always have backed us to beat the UAE, but to win by 70 plus runs was entirely thanks to Richa. So phenomenal. From where we're placed right now in the points table, like India absolutely should make it through. Sri Lanka will probably make it through the other group. And so it'll probably be an India, maybe India, Thailand, or India, Bangladesh semi-final. So you'd back us to make the finals, and then waiting for us will probably be either Pakistan or Sri Lanka. Looking like Sri Lanka, honestly, they look formidable. I mean, they just beat Malaysia by 144 runs, and that was 184 on the board and 40 all out. So it's been interesting. But Asia Cups are always fun, and I think we may be gearing up for an India Pakistan final, which will be the 27th, the same day as the India Sri Lanka men's first T20. So it's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of
So
great
so
cricket.
predicting an India win in the women's Asia Cup,
I
and
mean,
what are we predicting for the Sri Lanka T20 and ODI series?
I'm going to say India wins both, but
Let's do T20s first. T20s.
T20s 2-1 into India.
So we're gonna slip somewhere. We're
Yeah.
gonna have one mystery
Dude,
spinner
we
that
didn't even sweep.
bamboozles us in the
We didn't
first
even
game.
sweep Zimbabwe. How will we sweep Sri
I mean,
Lanka?
we won the World Cup undefeated, but we're gonna lose a game to Sri Lanka with our A side right
No,
now.
but in T20, that's our A side after half of it retired. It's not the side that
This,
won the World Cup.
yeah, but I mean, there was a
No,
point
I
at which
think
we
it'll
were
be a
saying
good
this is not
series.
even our best squad. But
I
yeah,
think it'll be a great series win, but I think 2-1 is just fine. There's nothing wrong with a 2-1
I'm
series.
gonna
Right?
say 3-0. I
Okay.
think Sky is gonna do it.
Okay.
Start off on the Sky and Gothi combination is
Do
gonna
you
start
ever
off on a
predict anything short of an
ruthless note.
India men sweep or clean victory? Do you ever
Well, we're
predict
gonna
anything?
play Australia later in the year, so I'll have to
Yeah,
temper my expectations there.
that's fair. And then ODIs, are you calling 3-0 there as well?
We'll do that next week.
Okay,
We'll do
fair.
that
We got
next
some
week.
time. All
Yeah,
right.
done.
Good. DJ, great to catch up. It's been fun. A couple of weeks off. Thank you for those who did come back and tune in. Thank you for the patience. Again, we are Edges and Sludges. We're at one tip, one hand on all the social medias. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button and hit the subscribe. We'll be back next week. We're back pretty much every week except for post IPL, post World Cup, when everybody needed a bit of a break. So thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back in a week's time.